Number 10. Red Goblin. Red Goblin is the amalgamation of the Carnage symbiote, combined with Norman Osborn's Green Goblin. When you mix a blood-fused symbiote like Carnage together with the insane Green Goblin, you get Red Goblin, a pretty fearsome foe to be reckoned with. Spider-Man had to renounce his mantle to protect his family and fight Red Goblin as Peter Parker, and had to also call in backup to defeat this epic version of Norman Osborn introduced a few years back. This whole experience as well severely messed with Norman's mind, and later resulted in him believing that he was in fact Carnage, aka Cletus Cassidy, and was not at all Norman Osborn, forgetting all about that life until another mysterious villain, Kindred, gave him back his sanity. Thanks, Kindred, that's so nice of you. Number 9. Kindred. Kindred is a Spider-Man villain who was first introduced in the 2018 series of Amazing Spider-Man in issue 1. Kindred itself is a demon from hell who used to be human and seems to have had a close relationship with Peter Parker in life. However, what we didn't know for a long time was just who Kindred's true identity was. We simply knew the villain wanted revenge on Pete and on Norman Osborn, and that they had demonic powers in addition to having 2 pet centipedes, which Kindred often uses to assist them and do their bidding. Recently, Kindred's true identity was revealed to be that of Harry Osborn, but some fans are still hesitant to take this reveal at face value, believing it could be a misdirect and that we may still not yet know Kindred's true identity. So many people have so many theories. And before we move on to our number 8 spot, just a reminder, if you love us like we love you, show it to us by giving this video a thumbs up, and thank you for doing so. Number 8. The Griever at the end of all things. So I always want to call this villain the Griever at the end of the universe, but that must be because I'm a huge Hitchhiker's Guide fan, and that's just bubbling back to the surface in my mind. But it's not the Griever at the end of the universe, it's the Griever at the end of all things. The Griever at the end of all things was a new villain who showed up and seemingly killed Molecule Man, proving how powerful and scary she was as early as her first appearance. I gotta say, I think her design is cool, but I'm kinda disappointed that she hasn't resurfaced in any Fantastic Four issues since her first fight with the FF team. The fight was so epic that the Fantastic Four actually had to call in a ton of backup, calling on temporary and rotating members of the team to join them, and finally revealing after the events on Battleworld and the recreation of the multiverse that they actually weren't dead as all their fellow heroes were made to believe, but were actually alive and rebuilding everything in secret. So that let that cat out of the bag.
And coming in at number 7, VOLTHOOM, Earth 15. Making his first appearance in Green Lantern Annual Volume 5, Issue 1 back in 2012, also known as the First Lantern. So like I said, he's from the future on Earth 15 in the year 3079, and after his world was on the brink of destruction, him and his mother used the newly discovered emotional electromagnetic spectrum, which is a multiversal force powered by all life in the multiverse. Then they used this power to create the Travel Lantern, and then VOLTHOOM left to find safety while his mother stayed behind and unfortunately, in superhero fashion, died by being crushed by a building right as he left. So he traveled for weeks through space and time in desperate hopes to find something to save his home world. So he goes to Earth 17 and uses the spectrum to resurrect plant life. Cool, not much more to do here, let's go next. He tries Earth 47, then they use the spectrum to create nice music. Cool. And next he went to Earth 3 where he met a sorcerer named Mordu, in which he creates a power ring out of a piece of his soul. And that ring of course being called the Ring of VOLTHOOM. He finally found Earth 0 where he acted as the law and order. Eventually VOLTHOOM's mind was corrupted from the spectrum and he becomes insane and tries to kill the Malthusians, who had created a great heart battery beforehand. Not cool, VOLTHOOM. More like not cool Tomb. Nah, I tried.
Number 6. Dark Carnage. Dark Carnage is like Cletus Cassidy but dead, and brought back to life using the Grendel symbiote, and then turned into a towering skeletal monster that is hungry for your spine. Well, maybe not your spine specifically, but if you bonded with the symbiote ever, alive or dead, he's hungry for that spine. It's finger licking good. Delicious spines. Dark Carnage was sort of the final phase of Cletus Cassidy, who sought to awaken Null by gathering all the codices from within all those beings who had ever bonded with a symbiote. Doing so would awaken the Dark God, which was just the kind of chaotic party Cassidy was all about. And attempting to do this, he perished but was ultimately successful as Null is now awake and headed for Venom and Earth. Cletus may be gone as a result, but the villain has died many times and returned in many different incarnations, such as this new one, Dark Carnage. I'm excited excited to see if he comes back again, and when he does, just which version of Carnage we'll see next. Maybe some kind of dark immortal Carnage. Number 5. Punchline. So Punchline has to be one of my favorite of the newest villains we've seen. I didn't want to like her when she was announced, especially as I thought she was going to be like some new younger version of Harley Quinn, which I didn't really think that we needed. But then I met Punchline, and I gotta say, I like Alexis. She's okay by me. Punchline's real name is Alexis K, and we learned her backstory in the Joker 80th anniversary special. She sought out the Joker believing that his ideology matched or at least suited her own. She has displayed some pretty sweet chemistry and toxicology skills, making Batman his own special version of the Joker venom. How nice. Which tormented him through most of the Joker War story, and has proven how deadly she can be with her stilettos when she managed to land a life-threatening hit on Harley Quinn. I really hope we get more Punchline in the near future. I was pleasantly surprised by how different and interesting she is in comparison to Harley Quinn, and I also just love her character design. Punchline first appeared in Batman Volume 3 in issue 89. Number 4. Hordeculture. Hordeculture have to be some of my favorite of the newest villains and villain groups to surface. They are a group of elderly women and botanists who are focused on preserving the planet, focusing on returning it to a more pristine state. In other words, they want to make sure people stop messing everything up by taking control of everyone's food source, in essence controlling plant life and crops, in order to decide who gets to live and kinda who gets to die. As of right now, there are 4 women who are part of the group that we know of: Lily, Edith, Opal, and Augusta. They also made a brilliant and hilarious appearance in the limited Empire X-Men series, which by the way, if you haven't read, is pretty hilarious and great, and I do recommend it. You don't really have to read Empire to enjoy it either, you just need to know the general plot of that event to enjoy the story of this 4-issue series featuring my fave new villains, Hordeculture.
Number 3. Gotham Girl, aka Claire Clover. She made her debut in DCU Rebirth issue 1 in 2016. Her and her brother Hank both traded in years of their lives for superpowers. So they can either live 2 years at Superman's level, or live a few hours with godlike levels, which is really interesting. If you had this power, which way would you go? Let us know in the comments, because I'm curious. So Batman ended up taking Claire and Hank under his wing, but unfortunately, Psycho Pirate's mind manipulation ended up getting the better of him. Hank ended up using all of his life force just to defeat the Justice League. After his death, Claire wasn't doing too well. Batman even told her his real identity and how he sometimes likes to talk to his dead mom as well. How lovely, what a nice little bonding moment. Now, by the name of this list, you won't be too shocked to hear that she had also been secretly working with Bane to break Batman on a psychological level. Not cool.
Number 2. The VESCORA. The VESCORA are a mysterious alien race that made a brief appearance in Cable Volume 4 Issue 5 as part of the Ten of Swords event. We run into them on the Sword headquarters space station known as Peak 7. It seems the VESCORA swiftly invaded Sword's orbital HQ, and within 10 minutes had pretty much decimated almost the entire crew. We know this from the log featured in the issue. Those few surviving crew had no other option but to completely shut down the station's power in order to prevent the VESCORA from progressing any further with their invasion. To prevent anyone from potentially awakening the station or the VESCORA, they didn't send out any SOS calls at the time of powering everything down, and essentially just kind of disappeared. Opal Luna Saturnine was the one who compelled Cable and his parents, Marvel Girl and Cyclops, to awaken the station once more. Though her motives remain unknown, it's speculated that she wanted to harm the family to help prevent Cable and possibly all mutants from being able to enter the Otherworld tournament, although her motives are still very foggy in my opinion. The VESCORA seem obsessed with cleansing, dissecting, and learning of any alien life forms. In other words, they pretty much want to kill everyone. Number 1. Donald Blake. Thor issue number 9 of the newest run from 2020 starts off a new story arc titled Prey. At the end of the issue, we see the return of Donald Blake, a former persona of Thor's who basically became his own person but then was trapped in a hell dimension. Driven mad, Dr. Donald Blake has returned, escaped his prison, and seems to be looking for revenge on all of the gods. This is a refreshing and interesting take on an old character, bringing him back as a villain now. It's what I really find intriguing about this new run on Thor, which I thought was maybe going to be trying to take us back to ones with, you know, the title character himself and everything else, and yet we have amazing things like this happening. Donald Blake returning to us not as the same old ally, but as a villain. Shortly after escaping, Dr. Blake is confronted by Loki, so that's the god that he deals with first. Surprisingly, Blake makes quick work of Loki, vowing that he will no longer be a refuge for any god ever again, and they will no longer be able to hide from him. Thor, I think he's coming for you. I think so. Number 10. Luminous. Luminous was actually a pretty cool new villain who seemed to really only be used for one story arc. She was one of the only cool things really to come out of the realization that Wanda and Pietro Maximoff were not actually Magneto's children as we'd been led to believe for years. In fact, they weren't even mutants. They were the product of the High Evolutionaries' experimentation, which fit more in line with their origins in the MCU, which I guess is why we changed that. No, I'm not mad about it. Not at all. It turns out the High Evolutionary had also used their genetic material to create a sister for them both, known as Luminous. She possessed both the chaos magic, reality warping powers of Scarlet Witch, as well as the super speed of Quicksilver, and was originally ordered by her father, the High Evolutionary, to kill her genetic siblings. She tried real hard. Number 9. Pets of Evil Masters. While the Pets of Evil Masters might not be the most impactful villains around, they are definitely some of the most adorable. These villains obviously seek to thwart the Pet Avengers, the pets of Earth's most mightiest heroes. Like their heroic opponents, the Pets of Evil Masters are exactly what they sound like, the pets of some of the most vile villains in the Marvel Universe. They are led by Doctor Doom's pet Vulture, Vulture Von Doom, and include Thori, Loki's Hellhound, and Bitey McSpidey, who isn't stated to be owned by any specific villain, but is implied to be the spider that was responsible for creating Spider-Man. On Earth 616, that spider may have died, but on Earth 97161, where the Pets of Evil Masters are from, I guess that little spider lives on, seeking to wreak all kinds of havoc. And before we move on to this next part, just a quick thank you to you for sticking around watching this video, and if you haven't already, something that helps us out a ton here at the channel is clicking that like button, so do it. Click the like button, and if you did already, thank you so much for doing so, it really helps us out. Number 8. Null. While Null did first appear as a mysterious being in Thor God of Thunder issue number 6 in 2013, he wouldn't receive a full appearance with more exploration and embellishment in terms of his history until the summer of 2018. Now Null has become such a big figure that he is threatening not just Venom's existence, but the existence of all of Earth's heroes with the King in Black event that is slated to start in December. Null has come a long way since that first mysterious appearance, and it's likely he's going to aim to go even further to guarantee his place in the Marvel history books and lore for years to come.
Number 7. Poison Ivy. Taking place in Batman-Joker War, we find a ravaged Gotham City. The Joker has sent out all his goons to run around and basically mess the place up. Most of Batman's villains are just laying low at this point, just kinda waiting to see what happens, you know, just watching from afar. Now at this point, we haven't really seen much of Poison Ivy in the storyline. After a brawl with Punchline and Harley, most of Poison Ivy's hidden underground cave, called Eden, burned down. So Poison Ivy returns to look for Harley and she sees the damage. Oh, there were a few of Joker's goons inside, but they obviously didn't last long, as you would have expected. She explains to the last guy before she kills him that she's done with distractions, and instead of rebuilding this cave, which she easily could have done, she summons up this new plant called Devil's Ivy. Cool name too. Speaking of cool names, she reveals her new persona, Queen Ivy. That's right, shortly after she builds a throne, a fancy new outfit, and to top it all off, a crown. I dig it.
Number 6. Ultimatum. Ultimatum is basically Dark Miles Morales from Earth 616. He grew up as part of the Rigoletto crime family and later in his life ended up serving time in prison in place of his cousin. Although Miles Morales, aka Spider-Man, has basically been moved to the Prime Universe of Earth 616 and made it his new home, following the destruction of his original universe, the Ultimate Universe of Earth 1610 and the Incursions, there was another Miles Morales who originally was from the main continuity, from Earth 616. We'll call him 616 Miles Morales, try to make this less confusing for you. That Miles Morales of Earth 616 became a villain, working in league with Kingpin aka Wilson Fisk. 616 Miles has a scarred face and ends up becoming the villain known as Ultimatum. 616 Miles actually took that villain alias of Ultimatum and was planning on trying to send 1610 Miles, Spider-Man, back to his original universe and take over Brooklyn in the ongoing comic series Miles Morales Spider-Man. He was momentarily stopped, however, by Spider-Man himself and Prowler, who escaped his clutches. Miles versus Miles, who wins? Too many Miles! Just kidding, you can never have too many Miles Morales in my opinion. Number 5. Assessor. Assessor is an AI who is working in tandem with Ultimatum, or more specifically working for him. For those who don't know, Ultimatum is basically like evil Miles Morales, who was the Miles of the main continuity of Earth 616 originally. If you want to learn more about him, we actually talked about him in part 2 of this list series, so you can go back and check that out. Assessor as a villain is basically like a humanoid appearing Gladys from the Portal video game animating series. They had heroic Miles Morales brought to a testing center where they could run tests to gain in-depth information on his powers, threatening to harm his family members if he did not cooperate. Assessor does not appear to have any human emotions and only allowed Miles to escape after they were satisfied with the information they had already procured from the tests. It's unknown who created Assessor or where exactly they come from. It's all very mysterious. Number 4. XENO. XENO is a mutant terrorist group who is composed of others from previous mutant hate groups. The idea is all those mutant hate groups have now unified like the mutants themselves, becoming this new group known as XENO, which was written to be a play on the word xenophobia. XENO managed to capture mutant Domino and use her skin to mask their own soldiers as mutants so that they could infiltrate Krakoa and massacre as many mutants as possible before the alarm sounded in the mutant nation. During their first appearance, they managed to assassinate mutant leader Charles Xavier. Though fortunately Charles was able to be resurrected following this instance, and Krakoa covered up the successful assassination to make it seem as though he was never killed in the first place. Because you can't let other world leaders know that your world leader was assassinated. That's it's not so good.
Number 3. Harley Quinn. Making her first debut back in Batman Harley Quinn in 1999 and portrayed by the insanely talented Margot Robbie, literally one of the best actors on the face of the earth, Harley Quinn has always been known for flipping back and forth, changing sides. She's kinda weaving in and out a little bit, Even her character evolution in the new DC movies alone, like looking at Harley in Birds of Prey compared to how we met her in Suicide Squad. In the comics, her relationship with the Joker is abusive and it's controlling, and Harley has histrionic personality disorder, so she has a lot of things in common with the Joker. So when it comes to seeking attention with all these crime lords, she's super entertaining when she tries to get Mr. J's attention. She uses her psychiatrist skills to get in close, get in your head a little bit. She's super lovable as well. I mean, obviously, look who's playing her. I'm glad DC is moving Harley to be her own character in this new live action franchise. It's a nice message too. It's like, you know what, no matter how deep in love you are with a psycho, you can always break out of it, start a gang, and kick some bad guys' ass. There's always time, guys.
Number 2. Annihilation. Annihilation is a dark god who possesses those who wear their golden mask. Whoever so possesses their mask is overtaken by the dark entity within it, and depending on their own strength is often destroyed by the sheer power of the god and mask itself. It is believed to be the spirit of Amenth that manifested, and is also linked to the control and rule over the Amenthi demons. Without anyone wearing the mask to rule them, the Amenthi demons are revealed to be destructive and reckless, destroying anything and everything they can get their hands on without any need for a reason. The shocking revelation of Annihilation's current true identity was recently revealed in the current X-Men run in issue 14. No spoilers for anyone who isn't caught up. Number 1. Kang. Kang the Conqueror is believed to be coming to the MCU in this next cinematic phase. So while he might not be a new villain in terms of the comics, in terms of the MCU he's going to be one of the freshest we've seen. Once he shows up, that is, in Ant-Man 3, which is expected to release in 2022. Woo! 2022, that's a long way away. It is believed that the brilliant Jonathan Majors will be playing Kang, or at least one form of him, and that he'll be showing up in Ant-Man 3. And that's according to the Ant-Man 3 IMDb page. It's right on there if you look at it. The cool thing with Kang, however, is that he's a time-traveling villain who as a result has been known by many different identities and aliases throughout his history. So while Jonathan Majors may be playing one version of him, there might be other actors also playing Kang. The weird thing though with Kang is that he's a time-traveling villain who as a result has been known by many different identities and aliases. So yeah, it could be great or it could be really confusing. We've known him as Immortus, Rama Tut, and even at one point as Iron Lad. It'll be interesting to see how Marvel and Disney aim to integrate Kang and what this means for not just the main continuity but the potential multiverse within the MCU. So many great and bizarre new villains and reinvented villains coming your way. I don't even know what to think of Kang coming to the MCU. That just seems so strange, but I also feel like sometimes the strangest choices are the best. Also, we're getting Jonathan Majors, so I feel really good about that. I guess only time will tell how that will go.
Kicking off the list at number 10. Harley Sin. Constance Brand, aka Harley Sin, is the daughter of a billionaire, so you already know she's going to be trouble. Harley Sin first came around in 2016, making her first appearance back in Gang of Harleys issue 1. First of all, the look of Harley Sin, I'm here for it. She's got that Rocky Horror Picture Show vibe, she's a badass. The second issue, titled Hit 'Em Where It Hurts, we see the tattooed badass punk put in some work. She meets Harley Quinn, and during a fun little introduction panel, we see Sin say the words, "I'm the person that's going to be killing each and every one of your useless gang." So right off the hop, she's kind of a big deal. I don't know, she's in a bad mood. So this rich billionaire father I mentioned earlier, yeah, Harley Sinn's father in fact is believed to be Donald Trump, or at least he was drawn and characterized to resemble him. That plus the tattoos, drug addictions, and lust for violence, you got yourselves quite the villain. And before we move on to number 9, make sure if you guys haven't done so already to go ahead and click that like button. It helps us out a bunch here at the studio, and it's this one, not this one. Unless you're a Spider-Man, then maybe it's that one. Go ahead and click that one.
Number 9. Grail. Grail is the villainous daughter of Darkseid and basically acts as an opposing force to Wonder Woman. The two women were born at exactly the same time, and it was prophesied that Grail, the daughter of Darkseid, and Myrna would bring about much destruction. As such, she was almost killed as soon as she was born, but her mother protected her. She proved almost right away in the comics that she was a new villain worthy of our time when she made easy work of the Justice League. She and Diana ended up facing off shortly thereafter, but their fight was interrupted. However, they would continue to clash during the Darkseid War, and likely will keep doing so, as Grail was basically designed to be the perfect foil for Wonder Woman. Grail was first introduced in Justice League Volume 2, Issue 40.
And number 8. Godspeed. August Hart, aka Godspeed, made his first debut not too long ago in The Flash Rebirth Volume 2, Issue 1. With a name like Godspeed, one can only assume the powers in which they'll contain. Super speed, which is also my favorite superpower on the low. Created by Joshua Williamson and Carmine Di Giandomenico, sorry if I butchered that name, I tried 7 times. Godspeed stands out from the rest of the speedsters because of one badass reason. He can separate speedsters from the Speed Force. Now if you watch the CW's Arrowverse, you know what I'm talking about already. August Hart was also a detective, a former partner of Barry Allen, to be frank. And then along comes a force storm in Central City, and all of a sudden you have these godlike powers. Pretty ideal powers for a hero, and also a villain. That's right, as you would have guessed by clicking this video, he doubles as a villain on the low. So he became the Flash's partner while secretly becoming Godspeed the villain. Not cool, dude. Why'd the villain move though? Well, when August's brother was murdered by a criminal, he was released due to insubstantial evidence. So August decides to confront the Black Hole organization after they had stolen property from Star Labs. He sees their symbol that resembles one at his brother's crime scene. Interesting. So while confronting him, that's when the Speed Force lightning strikes. I feel like if I was a speedster, I would just be like Quicksilver and hang out in the basement, play some stolen video games. Is it really that hard to just chill out? I know you're angry, but like, it's all good. Speed walk it off.
Number 7. Apocalypse's children. / first horsemen, I suppose. These kids are the ones who obviously inspired Apocalypse in the future when it came to naming and creating his horsemen thereafter. Their names are the same as those Apocalypse would normally take for his horsemen: war, death, famine, and pestilence. These children made their first appearance recently and then resurfaced once more extremely recently in the newest X-Men series. They hold a grudge against Apocalypse, who they believe abandoned his family. They blame him for such, and while you might think that Apocalypse is a villain, so who cares, right now he is aligned with the other mutants of Krakoa, and as such is actually considered mostly a good guy? For now anyways. He did do some shady stuff, so not so nice Apocalypse. Or however we're saying your name now, Krakoan symbols with an A in the middle, however I say that in Krakoan.
Number 6. The Kindred. Making its first appearance in the Multiversity Guidebook number 1, the Kindred is this cosmic force that appeared after the Rebirth event. Created by Grant Morrison, the Kindred is a 4-part entity, and they each represent DC lore, so those 4 being the Speed Force, magic, cosmic power, and emotional light spectrum. So they have a handle on pretty much any angle out there. Now this is a villain list, so this is bad news for us, or rather bad news for pretty much any world. For starters, they take all of the energy from living creatures. That's how they come together. Nice, teamwork. Teamwork makes the dream work. Also tears. So off the bat, these guys are just OP. I love the look of these celestial gods though. They each have like their own color. Even if Brian Hitch wrote them into his run with the Justice League, with destruction being the driving force, this is still kind of a villain that even I'll root for. I said it, sue me, what's up? Number 5, William Cobb, the Talon. He made his comic book debut in 2011 back in Batman Volume 2, Issue 2, and the Talon is an assassin for the Court of Owls. who claims to have killed several Wayne family members, including Bruce Wayne's great-great-grandfather, Alan Wayne. Not a bad resume. He began his early days juggling baseballs on the street just to get by, and after his father had passed away tragically while building a bridge for Cameron Kane, he began his early days juggling baseballs on the street just to get by, after his father had passed away tragically while building a bridge for Cameron Kane. So he would earn some money and then sneak it into his mother's purse. What a gem. And then one day somebody was watching his act and then got pickpocketed. So William Cobb noticed and hucked one of these baseballs at him, saving the day. The man offered him a job at a circus as a thank you. So he started using knives instead of baseballs to amp up the act, keep it fresh, and eventually met his love Amelia back when he returned to Gotham. Now he was a celebrity though. Amelia's father didn't like the two in love, so he told William to beat it. Amelia at this time was actually pregnant. Ruh-roh. So Cobb joined the Court of Owls and became one of the Talons, and went back to Amelia's house to kidnap his own son. His son ends up becoming the Gray Son of Gotham, John Grayson's father. Number 4, Eradicator 2. With that name alone, oh boy, you already know what's coming. The Eradicator 2 was created, of course, after DC's rebirth with the absence of the original Eradicator. Another big bad version was bound to show up. I mean, we expected it. So of course, this is the newer version of Eradicator from the 80s comics. But the best part is that he still has the 80s look. He's got the retro badass glasses, which are such a nice touch, by the way. Just by looking at this guy, you can tell he's the coolest. Created by General Zod, this AI ended up taking on the physicalities of Superman, hence the everything about him. So when this badass AI is close to a yellow sun, he gets powered up real good. I'm talking the usual super strength, stamina, flight, speed, and he's basically invincible. A cool but scary power that he also obtains is that of energy manipulation, because he's made of course, pure energy. Eradicator wasn't used too much, but I feel like Eradicator 2, since his first new appearance in Superman Volume 4 Issue 2, at the very end we see his rebirth, and it's beautiful. Once the Kryptonian gene is detected back on the Fortress of Solitude, energy forms all around the room. There's an ID badge, some glasses, and then bam, all this mixed into one. You get this bright pop, and his opening line being, "We are here, we will save you too, Kal-El." And it's sick. He's like basically Terminator with a cape. He's got the look, there's this energy coming from him. I would love to see this guy go head to head with Henry Cavill. I mean, maybe we'll get more of a dark alternate version with the Snyder cut of the Justice League, but fine, that'll have to do in the meantime. For now.
Number 3, White Sword. White Sword was one of the mutants who was part of the original mutant nation of Okara, which Apocalypse and his wife Genesis ruled. He was one of the leaders who was sent along with his army of 100 champions to defeat the Amenthi who attacked. He was believed to have been victorious, but was also lost to his people as a result. A healer capable of resurrection, he would revive his army daily to fight the Amenthi horde the following day. It's said that this drove the White Sword somewhat insane, and when he later ran into his own people such as Genesis, who herself had been sent out with a mutant army under her command, he saw even them as his enemy and he attacked, defeating Genesis. He will be one of the champions to fight on the side of Arakko opposing Krakoa in the Ten of Swords tournament. He also happens to look similar to Apocalypse, but with different armor. Maybe you don't see that, but I definitely see that.
Number 2, the Batman who laughs. Bruce Wayne, but from Earth 22, is a touch different than the one that we know best. The Dark Universe is a very special and very vast place filled with alternate versions of characters, but one of the most notable has to be the Batman who laughs. Making his first appearance in Dark Days, the casting, this Bruce Wayne has, well, of course, similar origins that we're familiar with. Parents were murdered, became a crime-fighting bat, protects Gotham, all the good stuff. But this Joker changed his path up. Joker began murdering everybody in Gotham. He bombed a hospital and then shot the parents of the kids. Like, he's twisted, and he's also dying at the same time. He's dying from the chemicals that made him become the Joker in the first place. So of course he wanted to take everybody out with him. So when Batman stepped in and killed him by breaking his neck, the toxins from the Joker were inhaled by poor Batsy, causing this to happen. So a day later, he's joined by Batgirl, Nightwing, Red Hood, Red Robin, who were training in the Batcave, and then Batman then shot all of them. And then this is just the beginning. This insane clown Batsy is terrifying and entertaining in all of the right ways.
Number 1, Ghostmaker. We don't know a lot about Ghostmaker yet. He first appeared in Volume 3 of Batman, the current run, in issue 100 as a mysterious figure. And so far, he stayed that way. We'll likely see more of him in issue 103, but so far we know he's not as new as he might appear. In fact, in Batman issue 102, Batman seems to recognize him, leading many to speculate as to which old rival Ghostmaker's true identity could actually be. We do know that he's here to challenge Batman for Gotham and to provide the people with an alternate option when it comes to choosing their hero for their city. He also comes with a ton of tech, and at this point is probably going to quickly end up being better equipped than Batman himself when it comes to gadgets, as Bruce just lost all of his fortune to Lucius Fox. Well, he gave it away, that is. And Lucius is out of the Batman game. Bruce is on his own this time around when it comes to equipping himself, and he only has his own ingenuity and the help of the Bat fam to back him up.
Kicking off the list at number 10, Dawn of the Dead. Making his first appearance in Taskmaster Volume 2, Issue 2. Okay, right off the bat, this guy rocks. I mean, look at this dude's style. Come on, he knows he's poppin'. He's a former S.H.I.E.L.D. operative, and while he was a military advisor to the Mexican Armed Forces, he had met Taskmaster. Now, after he had left S.H.I.E.L.D., he got this amazing new persona, Dawn, D-O-N, of the Dead, which is my new favorite name for any villain ever. That's it. He pretends to be Mexican and was elected a governor in western Mexico. It was there that he was trained by Taskmaster, and now he's the leader of his very own cartel that focuses on methamphetamine. Nice. So this is a wild villain. Every panel of this guy is super flashy and very dramatic. Of course. He's also quite the performer. In his first issue, you see him addressing a crowd of Hannah Montana wannabes, saying that this is what real narcos sounds like. Again, the guy from S.H.I.E.L.D. pretending to be Mexican. Awesome. Duly noted.
And before we move on with our list, guys, if you could just go ahead and toss us a thumbs up, because you know it helps us a lot here at the studio, and thank you very much to everyone that has already done that. Thank you. Number 9, Macho Gomez. Macho shows up as a random villain to Deadpool in issue 32 of his 2008 series. He is basically an alien hitman who thinks he's the best. Definitely better than the earthbound merc with a mouth, Deadpool. In reality, he proves to not be as great as he thought he was. Deadpool makes quick work of him and then ends up going on a space adventure to get paid and to prove his mettle to the galaxy and the universe. This prompts an epic space opera arc where Deadpool takes over Macho's life, taking his former job and even marrying his widow.
Number 8, the Builders. The oldest race in the universe, and they actually consider themselves perfect beings. Okay, wow, we're gonna go there. I see you. Yeah, okay, you're perfect. Sweet. Beyonce and the Builders. Man, that's a tough one. Here we go. They're so perfect. I mean, how do we pick between the two, you know? They worship the Mother Maker herself, the universe. The Builders created these aggressive systems to direct, shape, and control the very structure of space and time. So they think they're the shit. There are two types of builders, the creators and Bob the Builders. No, there's creators and then the engineers. They seeded worlds for billions of years and directed the evolution of civilization. I mean, I get it, you're cool, you're old, you think y'all are the best, you're not perfect though, okay? Spoiler alert, you look like bugs. Huh? You guys look like Ultron if he was covered in cow sh**.
Number 7, Immortal Abomination. Immortal Abomination is the devastating monster that first appeared in Immortal Hulk issue 18. He appears to be genetic material belonging to Emil Blonsky spliced with that of Rick Jones, which gives us a really messed up version of Rick with 2 heads in a monster body. This version of Rick Jones and Abomination is also referred to as Subject B. Eventually, he was put down later on in Immortal Hulk, but he is a horrifying, powerful, and emotionally painful creature for the Hulk to come up against, especially considering how close he and Rick Jones were. This version of Abomination, it should be noted, is different from the Abomination that we later come to know originally as General Reginald Fortean. The General Fortean version of Abomination first appeared in issue 19 of the Immortal Hulk series.
Number 6, Deadpool Corps. Making their debut in 2010, Deadpool Corps are, well, they're a team of Deadpools, as you would have guessed. Their first issue, Prelude to Deadpool Corps issue 1, they are founded by Earth 616 Deadpool after the Contemplator chose him to be the one to stop this cosmic entity, the Awareness. Super aware. The Awareness does this really neat thing where it devours the multiverse consciousness. Awesome. The Deadpool Corps have a unique mind that makes them immune to it. And they ride in style, using the B. Arthur as means of transportation. Which is not a bad ride at all. I mean, I'd pull up at that. Let's go. The Deadpool Corps joined forces after Dreadpool formed an evil version of the Corps that of course had out to, you know, massacre every version of himself in the multiverse. And the Deadpool Corps were short-lived, but as usual, a lot of bloody disgusting fun. Number 5, Joker. This one is super recent. I did say spoilers at the beginning of this video. You were warned. Warned, I tell ya. So in Batman Joker War, the Joker appears to be wearing a batsuit. Yeah, and it's pretty bad looking too. I mean, come on. He's got the smile across his chest, they got the ha-ha-ha's written on the side, and to top it all off, he's even sporting the purple cape. It's amazing. So Batman had no idea that this is what he would find. I mean, first a dead Alfred greeting him, and then now a Joker in a bat suit. Get me out of this nightmare, what is going on? So how did this even come about? While Punchline and Joker's goons turned Gotham into a flaming death zone, like I mentioned earlier, the Joker was busy going after Wayne's fortunes. And I loved seeing this version of the Joker as well, like going after Wayne's money right off the bat, pun intended, even confirming his own actions by saying, you know what, I'm going against my own brand on this one. It's just fun. And we also saw similar looking suits back before Suicide Squad even came out, and like promo material and stuff. And it got us pretty hyped up. Me and my friends were talking about it. Yet it never happened. A lot of those things just didn't happen in that movie, eh? Number 4, Detroit Steel. Making his debut in Invincible Iron Man Volume 2, Issue 25, we have another big badass suit guy, Doug Johnson III. A former army soldier who ended up working for Hammer Industries. He was the pilot rocking the big bad America suit. Everybody had thought that Doug was dead. And usually when this happens, it's either awful or it works out in your favor. I know from experience, you know? So Mock, Breaker of Faith, turned him into stone during conflict. Then when good guy Odin restored everybody, he was of course one of them. His family, the army, and Hammer Industries still thought that he was dead though. So he decided to use this in his favor. He got his passport returned to America, and kidnapped Sasha Hammer in order to get the Detroit Steel armor back in his hands. Justine Hammer was on board with this whole plan. Obviously, she was going to blow up the armor as soon as she got the chance, right? Well, Dougie Johnny III was already way ahead of the game. He had hacked Hammer's systems earlier so that it had no effect on him, which is not a bad idea at all.
Number 3, Mutant Trauma Support Group. The Mutant Trauma Support Group is a new group with an age-old message to deliver to all humans who hate mutants. You are not alone. The group offers support without judgment to those who have been wronged or felt like they have been wronged by mutants. They offer no judgment, only support. No hate speech or degrading comments are allowed in the community unless directed towards mutants. The group appears to have all their revenge missions and anti-mutant gatherings organized via an online community, possibly via a social media channel or some kind of exclusive forum. They first appeared in 2020's Wolverine in issue number 4, where they targeted, you guessed it, Wolverine. Although they had their plans of vengeance cut short by an unexpected guest, it's likely that there are many more members of the group that we could run into in the future.
Number 2, Evil Deadpool. Making his first appearance in Deadpool Volume 2, Issue 44, Evil Deadpool is somebody I think we're gonna see pretty shortly on the big screen. Yes, of course, I have a theory here. So the origins of Evil Deadpool are pretty wild. So Ella Whitby, who we all remember as the British psychiatrist who's obsessed with the loudmouth, but just how obsessed you ask? Well, I mean, she collects body parts from Wade Wilson and then leaves them in her freezer, right next to the ice packs and frozen pizzas, of course. So when Deadpool found this cool box of yuck, he tossed the parts in a dumpster. Now, Wade's healing factor is so good. How good is it, Taylor? Well, they all formed together and grew back. Ugh, imagine the smell. He ended up stealing a private jet and traveled to the States, where he ran into his other half, literally. The Tiny Legs part in Deadpool 2 was great and super funny, but what's up with his second half? Are they growing another Deadpool? I sure hope so. The evil twin thing seems to be working well. We'll watch 1,000 of those all day, every day.
Number 1, SOLEM. SOLEM is one of the champions fighting on the side of Arakko during the Ten of Swords event. Initially, we were introduced to him in 2020's Wolverine in issue 6, where he appeared as the perfect match for Wolverine. But although we've seen them dance around one another and even team up to take on a demon horde in hell, we still have yet to see these two battle one another. The reason why they seem so appropriately matched? SOLEM is an Iraqi mutant with adamantium skin, meaning he, in comparison to Wolverine's adamantium skeleton, is on the same level of durability. As far as we know, he doesn't possess Wolverine's advanced healing factor though, but he is known for being a smooth talker, and both himself and Wolverine each possess a Muramasa blade, meaning that they would be easily able to slice each other up with their swords. Because, you know, Muramasa cut through anything. Also take your powers away.
Kicking off the list at number 10, we have Erica Manson, aka Marionette. She made her comic book debut just 2 years ago in Doomsday Clock issue 1. Her and her father moved to the United States and opened up a puppet shop across the street from Maze Glass, which eventually led her to meet Marcos Maze, who would soon become her husband, but I'll get into that a little bit later. They started, of course, as best friends, while Marcos' stepfather thought that she was a bad influence. Ooh, So Marco ended up saving Erica from some bullies, and then Erica's father committed suicide after corrupt police officers were extorting money out of him at his puppet shop. Now, of course, this already sounds like a villain origin story, but it gets worse. So Erica ended up getting payback on the policeman while of course becoming the alternate persona, Marionette, with her trusty lover sidekick, Mime, aka Marco's Maze, who I mentioned earlier. I love this duo, honestly. Like, the vibe reminds me of like from Baby Driver, where you have Buddy and Darling. A lot of love and violence, just a hot mix. And before we head over to number 9, guys, if you could just give this video a thumbs up and like this video, it goes a long way over here at the studio. You guys rock, thank you. Now back to some more villains. And number 9, the Underbroker, not to be confused with the Underminer from Incredibles. So Harlan Graves, aka the Underbroker, is a businessman and lawyer located in, of course, Gotham City, who runs a bank for criminals. The Underbroker, of course, wears a fancy suit and a mask. I mean, he looks ready to go to the club, and he also looks ready to crunch some numbers. Love the red and black combo. Slick. He's a broker for criminals, so he would help them store cash in hedge funds. And he's actually so good at his job that the Caped Crusader doesn't even know about his secret organization he calls the Underbrokerage. Great name. He actually helped Catwoman transfer Batman's money to her account, but it was later revealed that he was just getting the account for the Joker. Super smart, super evil, and super handsome. Gotta love it. He made his debut in Batman Volume 3, issue 92. So if you want to check him out for yourself, you know where to look. And number 8, Barbados, also referred to as the Bat God, not Rap God. And he resides in the dark multiverse. So the World Forger, of course, was set to watch over the vast universes, and while some of them held up, there are just some worlds that were just naturally unstable. So what next? Well, they send a dragon named Barbados to destroy it. That way the energy can then return to the Forge. Now, sometimes you like your job a little bit too much, and this was the case for the Bat God. See, he ended up killing his master and then had a real taste for destruction, thus corrupting the Forge of Worlds. So now, with Barbados not destroying these worlds and sending that energy back, these worlds ended up becoming part of the Dark Universe. His journey begins with Dark Days, the Casting, issue 1.
Number 7, Perpetua. Perpetua is an old evil, but one that we didn't know of in the comics until 2018 when she was first introduced in Justice League Volume 4, issue 8. Perpetua quickly became known as one of the greatest evils the universe, or multiverse really, had ever known. She was the creator basically of all things, and the mother to the Anti-Monitor, World Forger, and Over-Monitor. Billions of years ago, she was betrayed by her own children and trapped in the Source Wall, along with her devastating and deadly creatures, the Apex Predators, a vicious combination of Martians and humans. Yeah, she really old. Perpetua was the one ultimately responsible for the crisis in the DC universe, as it was her whisperings from within the Source Wall that brought them about. The energy allowed her prison to weaken, cracking a little more each time there was a crisis, which was how Perpetua planned to escape. She was eventually freed when the Source Wall broke as a result of Barbados and the Batman Who Laughs actions, allowing her to once more wreak havoc on the world and earn back her power so she might rebuild the universe again in her own horrifying image.
And number 6, Daniel West, Reverse Flash. Making his first appearance in the Flash Volume 40, issue 0, Daniel West is a classic speedster. His costume is the first thing you notice when looking at this version of the Reverse Flash. His suit is made partially from the monorail that he crashed into, so it acts like an armor around him, which is super cool looking. It was merged to him. So after an accident where you get super speed, becoming a supervillain isn't too hard of a lane to slip into, especially when your mother dies while giving birth to you and your father is an aggressive alcoholic. Yeah, Daniel's upbringing is super tragic, so he uses the Speed Force in attempts to go back in time and prevent this from happening at all costs. So if anybody has to die in the meantime, so be it. His goal is to take out other speedsters and use their Speed Force to help him achieve his goal. Sad times indeed.
Number 5, Orchis. If you didn't already know me to be a big Marvel X-Men fan, then this list should solidify that as a thing for you. Yes, it is definitely a thing. I love the X-Men. Orchis is the new big bad for mutant kind, introduced originally in the House of X series. House of X and Powers of 10 were the series that launched into this new wonderful X-Men line with Jonathan Hickman at the head, Dawn of X. Orchis is designed to be kind of the ultimate mutant enemy, with mutants coming together together and putting their differences aside, it also inspired their enemies, and even allies in some cases, to become wary of them and do pretty much the same. ORCHIS comprises multiple organizations, each comprising different percentages of the organization, including Shield, Sword, Alpha Flight, Hammer, Hydra, Aim, Armor, and Strike. When I did that, I almost lost my ring. Oh my goodness. ORCHIS's goal is to monitor and prevent the potential extinction of humans on the planet, and they see mutant evolution and advancement as a threat to that goal.
Number 4. Oblivion. Making his first appearance in Green Lantern New Guardians Annual Issue 2 back in 2014, Oblivion is made of Kyle Rayner's rage, fear, and anxiety. He's the physical form of all of those traits and even believes himself to be Kyle Rayner. He stayed in his apartment and even tricked Carol into thinking that he was the real deal. So he has powers that allow him to shapeshift, teleport, he can project vast amounts of energy that match a white lantern, and he can also create illusions of people and objects. So one day Oblivion teleported Carol and himself to Arizona, where he used his powers to alter all the people in the buildings there. He's kind of annoying like that, you know?
Number 3. Clown Hunter. Clown Hunter is just a kid who stepped up to the plate when it came to taking back Gotham during the Joker War. Seeing his neighborhood being ravaged and attacked by the Joker gang, and having lost his parents to the Joker, he was inspired to start cracking skulls, which is exactly what he did, defending the innocent with a baseball bat with a batarang attached to it, to kill any clowns that crossed his path. His true name is Bao Pham, and at the end of the event, he was confronted by Batman himself, who suggested that he seek help and speak to a therapist. He also offered to mentor Clown Hunter, but warned him that he would not tolerate the teenage Bao killing anyone else, no matter their crime. Clown Hunter seemed interested in getting help, but only after his work was done. Clown Hunter first appeared in issue 96 of 2016's Batman.
And number 2, the Court of Owls. I mentioned them earlier, so I figured since they're going to be in the new Robert Pattinson Batman flick coming out in 2022, they're worth a bigger mention. So since the New 52, the Court of Owls have picked up steam. Created by Scott Snyder, this new secret society looks as cool as they are. They're an ancient group that has been secretly controlling Gotham for a while. Like a while. They even go back to some early Bruce Wayne days, hence them being part of the Matt Reeves Batman plot coming up. Their top assassin, of course, being the guy I mentioned earlier, Talon. So he ended up attacking him, and then Bruce decided to do some detective work, discovering the secret society. So he finds out that the Court of Owls actually has secret headquarters in every building made by the Wayne Trust. Sneaky, sneaky. Gotta love secret cults. And finally, number 1, Mr. Bloom. One of the coolest looking guys on this list, Mr. Bloom made his debut in 2015 in Batman Volume 2, issue 43. He began his journey by stealing high-tech seeds. Yep, you heard me, I said seeds. Makes sense why he's got the flower on his face. It goes well with the terrifying Slender Man look. I wonder what it smells like. Probably death or daffodils, one of the two. So after he took these super seeds, he got some superpowers, super strength, elasticity, hence the lankiness, and he can project flames and ice from his hands. Pretty neat. So he decides to give these seeds to a select few who desire superpowers. The only cost? Their life. I think next year for Halloween I'm gonna go as Mr. Bloom. Either him or Orlando Bloom. One of the Blooms for sure, I'm just not sure which one, you know? Number 10, the Joker. In the Last Night on Earth series, we find Bruce Wayne at Arkham Asylum. Yeah, it's super sad and dark. He wakes up to discover that he has never in fact been Batman. Like when he goes to hug Alfred, the panel quickly cuts and then Batman is like out in this random wasteland almost. And he has like this sort of asylum suit on with wavy pieces of white clothing that kind of blows behind him. It looks like Edward Scissorhands or like a mummy. It's kind of cool. But he wakes up in this desert and in the midst of all this confusion, he sees a lantern. Not like a lantern, like an actual lantern, you know? And what's in the lantern, you might be thinking? Just the Joker's head. That's right, so Batman and Noggin, as he refers to it. Yeah, so this Joker has quips. It kind of feels like Shrek a little bit. Now hear me out. We have Batman just trying to figure this whole ordeal out, and he's just trying to figure out pieces along the way, and then we have this crazy sidekick who just loves to talk. The writers really amped it up in issue number 3 of The Last Night on Earth. So during the duo's travels, Joker mentions, in a jokingly manner of course, that he wanted to be Batman's next Robin. Could you imagine that? Well, yeah, you can because it happens. And it's awesome too. So basically you take this lantern Joker's head and mix it in with Tim Drake's mech Robin suit that he no longer needs, and bam, you have the new Robin. He's an actual sidekick in this too, like he almost dies trying to save Bruce from Omega. The Last Night on Earth. Go check it out right now. Well, after the video, but Number 9, Mr. Freeze. Making his debut back in Batman Volume 2, Issue 1, Mr. Freeze is an iconic Batman villain, and partially because I think the best actor in the world played him in Batman and Robin. That's right, I'm talking about our boy Arnold. Mr. Freeze's biology was altered after being bathed in chirochemicals, so his body heat is only that of 23 degrees Fahrenheit. So anything he touches will also freeze. Now of course this also slows his aging down drastically. He wears a chiro suit to help keep his body temperature below freezing. That is, until a recent Detective Comics issue 1012. Nanotech saves the day. That's right, for years Mr. Freeze has been working with nanotech over and over again until finally he can now survive without the use of his helmet. I mean, as cool as the helmet did look, I think the main Avatar Blue Man Group kind of look suits him, you know? What do you guys think? Helmet? On? Off? I think off. Number 8, Scarecrow. Okay, this next one's for the nerds who also like to game out. Jonathan Crane, aka Scarecrow, is one of my favorite villains, hands down. After making his first appearance in World's Finest Comics, issue 3, and also portrayed by Cillian Murphy in the Nolan trilogy, Scarecrow is known to use fear as a main weapon, which is pretty sick. So we see this in Batman Begins, but we really see the full effects of where he can go mentally, specifically in the game Arkham Asylum. I mean, he's insanely scary and quite the big deal. He almost acted like Freddy Krueger in some ways. Like one minute you'll be walking around in the middle of a mission, maybe you're scanning something, and then all of a sudden the camera starts to change a bit, and then the game changes, and all of a sudden you're in this crazy nightmare. And it's so smooth the way it happens that you get kind of concerned, someone who's actually playing it. I also love seeing this type of Scarecrow in a video game because it made me feel like I was part of it. Like literally I was part of the action. You feel like a detective in the entire game series, it's done so well, but then you also feel pretty scared when you're not sure of what you're seeing is supposed to happen in the game. Some parts I swear my game was glitching. Amazing series if you haven't played it yet.
Number 7, Hydra Supreme. Hydra Supreme was the name Captain America took when he became evil. He only became evil, of course, because COBB, the cosmic cube in the form of a little girl, altered reality to make him a secret sleeper agent for Hydra throughout his history. Reality was then changed so that every action Captain America, Steve Rogers, had taken up to this point was all part of a long con to take over the United States of America after gaining their trust implicitly before revealing his true colors. Fortunately, the original Captain America still existed within the cosmic cube, or the shards of it, and once released was able to fight against and defeat his evil alternate reality counterpart. Woohoo! But also not woohoo if you were a fan of Hydra Supreme.
Number 6, Killer Croc. AKA Waylon Jones, he made his first debut in Batman number 357. We saw him in Suicide Squad and he looked pretty bad. It's kind of like a dinosaur, or like the lizard from Amazing Spider-Man, whatever. We don't talk about that movie in here. We're talking about DC, we're not talking about them. So the introduction of his character in Suicide Squad actually got me pretty pumped. And then the rest of the movie happened, so short-lived to say the least. His OG look wasn't nearly as menacing though. I mean, see, from his debut back in 1983, he looked like a guy. A strange looking guy, but still more human than his current look nonetheless. Now at this point, he was just a criminal with a scaly skin disease, where now he looks like a monster, donning the full-on Croc monster look. And if you want to see these big changes for yourself, make sure you check out Batman Hush Killer Croc, where he looks arguably the most bad. There's one panel where he's just towering over Catwoman and he's like, I want my money! And she's like, alright man, chill out. I would my leather pants. Very fast.
Number 5, Black Winter. Black Winter was actually an old villain sort of made new and shiny again. Originally we came to know this cosmic evil constant as the Creeping Plague, although I do like the name Black Winter better than Creeping Plague. It was credited with being the entity responsible for the death of the cosmos prior to its rebirth when Galen was first transformed into the being known as Galactus. The Black Winter was meant to be this massive, unstoppable eldritch villain, though shortly after its full appearance in Thor issue number 4 from 2020, it was swiftly defeated 2 issues later. It's not so unstoppable. Though it did require the power of Galactus, which Thor wielded in order to destroy the Black Winter, getting a brief glimpse of his possibly perilous future in its last falling snowflake. So yeah, it did require a lot of power, I guess, to take it out, but still, it was only 2 issues. They were like, this thing, it's massive, and defeated, no props. Oh yeah, the Black Winter is also kind of like an eldritch storm that basically erases the existence of all it comes into contact with, and it comes with bonus visions of your own destruction.
Number 4, Clayface. Basil Karlo, aka Clayface, made his first debut back in 1940 in Detective Comics numero 40. He was an actor that had gone a touch crazy when a remake of his classic movie was released with a new actor. Kind of like what we get to see every other month. So he decided to adopt this persona of an old movie villain, Clayface. And this guy's pretty neat. He can mimic anybody just by getting a smidgen of DNA. He can change the shape, the size of his body. Solid actor, eh? So method. Cut to Detective Comics Volume 1, Issue 934. Clayface had escaped Arkham Asylum. Why, you ask? To go to the movies. Yep, he went to go see himself on the big screen. To see himself. I don't watch myself really. I watch a few of these, but too scared. So as the crowd of moviegoers obviously runs out in a frenzy, Clayface is left sitting there wide-eyed, just wondering what could have been, watching his own performance. So Batman and Batgirl enter the theater, shocked that this is the reason he escaped. All he wants in this moment is just to watch the 84-minute movie and feel good again, to remind him who he was once. Batman responds with, well, what if I could give you more than that? What's the catch, he answers? Well, the catch is, says Batgirl, you're gonna have to do everything we say. And poof, we have Clayface on the home team. Let's go.
Number 3. Iska the Unbeaten. Iska is the sister of Genesis, and as such is Apocalypse's sister-in-law. She is a mutant from Morocco who is fighting against our mutant heroes of Krakoa in the Otherworld tournament, intended to settle their dispute as decided by Opal Luna Saturnine, the omniversal magistrates of the Starlight Citadel, as seen in the current X-Men event, 10 of Swords. Iska's mutant power is an epic one. She can never be beaten. Krakoan mutants Magic and Cable, both set to testing her power prior to the tournament's start, had a great feast that was held the evening before, finding them to be quite impressive. They wondered what would happen if she were to face their lucky friend Domino, and Iska assured them that whoever this Domino was, she would certainly lose. And I gotta say, after seeing Iska go to work, I think I would agree Iska's gonna probably win in a fight against Domino. Let me know what you think about that.
Number 2. Catwoman. Making her first debut in Batman number 1, Selena Kyle looked a bit different from the start, to say the least. We've seen numerous actors play the iconic jewel thief, from Michelle Pfeiffer, or as I said growing up, Michelle Pfeiffer, to Zoe Kravitz, set to play her in the upcoming Batman flick with Pattinson. So we know the look by now. All black, slick, couple of clips, some eyebrow raises. She kicks. This look was never the case, however. In the first issue she appeared in, she was actually referred to as the Cat, simply put. And at this time her outfit looked just a bit more lame, if I can say. She kind of looked like Doctor Strange in a weird way. The all yellow dress, the red cape, but the best part, she had a realistic fur mask. It wasn't until 1946 until her mask was changed to a more fitting look. Still not quite what we're used to, but it's a step in the right direction, that's for sure. Then in the 50s, she was deemed more of a sidekick to Batman rather than a villain. And finally, number 1, the Joker, Death of the Family. This next one is wild. And yes, the Joker was on this list more than once. Well, because I wrote it, okay? That's it. We go back to 2012, Batman Volume 2, Issue 13. Now, the Joker at this point had not been in Gotham City for about a year now. He originally got captured and sent to Arkham Asylum, but that was all part of his plan. So while he was in there, he made a meeting with Dollmaker, where they cut off Joker's face, and then the Joker escaped without a face. So a year later, the Joker returned to Gotham, still without a face, kills some cops, all Joker-like, still without a face, and then he steals his own face out of the evidence room, just slaps it on. He kind of has to tie it. It's really gross. Imagine looking around and then you just see your own face. That's it. So he masks up, or faces up, whatever you want to call it, and then he captures Alfred. Wild. The look of this mask though, oh, it's so loose and gross. It looks like baloney. You gotta love it.